Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Talented Universe on the 17th day of June, 2025. We're going to roll quickly and get started. Marcia, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Glad to be here as always.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. And you can go ahead and introduce our fabulous guest for today.
Yeah. And we are excited to have Danny Farber here, actor, director, producer. And although we've had a lot of vertical actors on our show, you are our first director. So that
No
makes it
way.
super interesting. And we're going to dive into hopefully a lot about what you do. So
Sure.
welcome.
Thank you very much, Marcia. Thank you, Michael, for having me, guys.
You want so
Yeah, go ahead.
Danny,
Go ahead, Marcia.
you are originally from Chicago, but I read that you have a term for yourself as not particularly just Chicago, but something called globally local.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us what is globally local?
Sure. I kind of manifested that one for myself because I remember like the first business card I ever made back when I was like 19 in Chicago. I had like all these different things on it. It was the true sign of somebody who's just so bright and brand new and like had no idea what he was doing. It was like I could be a director or a PA or all these other, and it was like stay in one lane. And at the bottom of it, I said globally local at that. And in the idea there being was that I'm happy to work in any market. I'm willing to travel for work. I want to see the world. I want to experience kind of different cultures and backgrounds. And 12 years later, I find myself privileged enough to truly mean that now as I say that I'm globally local. You know, there's an opportunity to explore new parts of the world and kind of work with teams from all kinds of different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. And when you describe we know that you're an actor, director, producer. So which kind of came first in your once you finished your training and that what would you say came first?
Yeah, I never wanted to be a director. I never or like a producer or a writer or any. I only ever wanted to be an actor growing up. And I remember I got my first ever like paid acting gig when I was 13. And from there, you know, a lot of like high school was, you know, this idea of I'm going to go to college to learn to become an actor. And my parents were just not having it. So out of defiance, I kind of said, I'm going to go to film school, learn how to make movies. And my parents, who are not at all, you know, a part of the industry, think, you know, to their credit, understood that there's a lot of crew positions and roles on a film set. And so they said, do that. That sounds like a great way to learn how to get onto a set and then be a little bit more versatile. Keep the acting thing as, you know, as part of the process, but expand what you're able to accomplish. And yeah, so I took that and ran with it and said if I wasn't going to be, you know, going to an acting school necessarily, I'm going to learn how to make a movie and then put myself in all my movies. And that's sort of brick by brick how I've built a career. A lot of it has been just kind of falling upwards, it feels like, and tripping into new opportunities and kind of expanding on that as they come.
So leaving yourself open to opportunities. And when you said that you were pretty young when you got your first acting job,
Yeah.
was it for a commercial or was it?
No, it was a local theater. It was a play. Yeah, that was kind of a goofy experience, but it was really an opportunity to. It was a small stipend, and I, as a Jewish man, I had just been bar mitzvahed at 13, and at 14, the first role I ever got cast as professionally was for Hitler Youth, which was just ironic in and of itself to you know, kind of grapple with these intense themes. And I remember I asked my grandmother, who is a Holocaust survivor, like, am I selling out my morals and my values for taking this small stipend to play a Nazi on stage? What does that mean? And she had a really great piece of advice where she was like, you know, if somebody's going to play that role, and wouldn't you rather be somebody who understands the ramifications and the weight of what that means than somebody who doesn't? And I said, yeah, but if I'm 13, am I I already selling my values just for a paycheck? And she goes, are you doing it for the $100 stipend, or are you doing it because you want to be an actor and this is a great role? And so it was immediately, as soon as I entered the industry, it felt like I was learning these life lessons of like understanding that the stories that we're asked to tell are not always up to you as a performer or even as a director. It's really though about the audience who's experiencing the story, and how can you confidently, portray what is given to you within the text. So that kind of got me, which is kind of a really good bookend in the vertical space as well, because I know oftentimes these scripts are not necessarily a thing that people would off the cuff be interested in seeing until you put the pieces together, and then you're like, this is really, really entertaining for A, B, C, or D reasons.
What an amazing first experience, and to be able to have someone to support you in that way, that gave you a really cool start to your professional career.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm. And Michael, do you want to jump in, or I can?
Yeah, let me get some of these questions out of the way from the chat room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Justin asks, he says, I ask everyone, but on a scale of 1 to 10, being 1 not at all, 10 being you are that person, how much do you relate to Father Weissman?
That's such a funny question. Thank you, Justin Fields. I got, is that a Bears reference? I dig it. So Father Weissman was a real quick cameo on a vertical that I directed, called Boss Please Behave. And it was just written as priest. And I remember just how it all came to be too, was like, we were shooting like an hour and a half outside of the city, and the production, rightfully so, didn't want to pay an actor to come out for the 1 or 2 lines, and I was already there, and they're like, Danny, are you cool to be just this guy for this? And I was, yeah, let me save production the couple $100 and just do the thing. And then as a Jewish man in my personal life, I thought it'd be funny to give the priest a very Jewish last name. So I gave him Father Weissman, as like, it's never a thing that we discuss. It's only a thing that exists on IMDb. And oftentimes on the IMDb, I'll throw funny names for the characters that I play. So I would say I relate maybe about 5 to Father Weissman, because not a priest, but I do want to marry people. I would love to be an ordained minister at one point in my life. That'd be really fun. Just like, I just think it would be a fun side quest. But yeah, I would say I'm about a 5 right there.
Yeah, and related to that, you and Kyra Wisely have a great chemistry. What is it like working with her?
Shout out Kira. What is it like working with Kira? Okay. Kira is a blast of energy in a glass. She's great. She's so talented and so easy to work with. She's one of those actresses who's really able to lock in, be really, really goofy and silly in between takes. And then when we, hey girl, I need the thing. We gotta focus up a little bit here. She'll be really good at like checking herself and doing so. You can see on her Instagram, I think on my Instagram as well, there's like a big blooper reel that we did for that movie, Boss Please Behave. And you'll just hear me throughout the 10 minutes of whatever the reel is, of just being like, guys, can we just, really, really good stuff. Really, can we just, I need to lock it in a little bit more. And Kira's one of those people where, she's so young. I think she's about to turn 21, and you can really, she's so experienced in this vertical world. And I have about a decade worth of like traditional film experience. So I think we both kind of meet each other at this, like, all right, we're both working professionals, but there's a lot of energy on set as we like to keep ourselves entertained on these long 12-hour days. Sometimes telling, redundant storylines. So it's a lot of like, she'll do something fun, and then I'll have to rein her back in, or I'll cut loose, and she'll be like, "Can we go?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So a lot of back and forth.
Okay. This question, I was going to ask something very similar, but I'm going to go ahead and ask the question from the chat. Michaela Bergman asked, if if you are a director and also an actor, are you your biggest critic as an actor?
It's a really good question. I think through directing, I've gotten a lot. I've given myself a lot more breaks as an actor. Like I'll cut myself some slack a little bit more than I think I used to just as an actor. I'm pretty solid now at 2 or 3 takes, whether it's an audition or on set, where I'm like, that felt good, that felt right, that felt wrong, that was not quite what it needed to be. And I think I know, so much of being a director is like looking at the bigger picture of like, here's our canvas. If, in the canvas, I actually had a actor from the TV show Mad Men, Vincent Kartheiser. One time he told me, he was like, if you're looking at a picture and the picture is a giant tree on a big landscape portrait, your number one of the call sheet is that tree in the middle. Your supporting characters are the apples that fall from the tree and the bushes around it. I was working on the TV show with him at the time, and I was a day player, so I was 3 or 4 lines in one scene. So he was like, "You're right on the horizon line. You're that little bush on the thing. You're necessary to complete the picture, absolutely, but you're here to complement what number one is doing." So as a director, I got to make sure that number one is the right shades of all of these things play to make it feel like we're looking at one cohesive picture. So as an actor, if it's a quick bit role, it's a lot easier to be like, great, this says a little bit more substantially about what the overall picture is supposed to look and feel and sound like. If it's something that is a deeper role and something where I have more influence on the story, it's hard not to be critical of yourself as an actor. But I also feel like, with a proper team behind the camera and with people that you love and respect and trust, you'll always get, if we're moving on, it's because you're doing something right. So it's really, I've gotten really good at letting go, being like, that was good. Okay, well then let's move on, and kind of moving from there.
Okay. Here's a question. I was looking at your IMDb, and a lot of the verticals that you're directing, you also wrote.
No, I haven't.
No? Well,
No.
I misread something. Okay, because that's what I was wondering, because it was like, I went, is he writing them also and directing and acting in them? But
yeah, it's a lie.
So the answer is it's a lie. Okay, so something I read wrong. Okay, good.
It's okay. I got to give credit to all the writers who in all the different companies who are commissioning writers and part of in-house writing teams to make these things happen. As far as the vertical world goes, I'm not producing them. I'm not writing them. I'm just directing them and occasionally acting in them.
Okay. I'm glad that got cleared up, because I read that and I go, really? Okay.
Yeah. I have written other projects and other films, and I do write, but I like to kind of narrow the focus a little bit more when you're doing, because it's such a big job already, and the task is like, make a feature film in a week, and you're like, oh my god, okay, well,
yeah, that's one thing I was going to ask before I go to this other question. The pace of verticals seems to be 3 times maybe or 4 times faster than your traditional TV or movie, especially movie project. Do you find that the case, or?
Yeah, so it's a little tricky, because like you look at something like, I just saw an interview with, I think Tia Carrera is her name, who was in Wayne's World, right? Mm-hmm. And she had mentioned that they had 28 days to film Wayne's World. That's an iconic movie that they got done in a month, which is crazy. Versus when I used to work on like union TV shows, you have 8 days to do often what is like 60 pages or something.
Right.
So extrapolate that a little bit further, and then that's okay. So you have 16 days to do 120 pages. So Hallmark Lifetime movies typically take about 14 days, sometimes a little bit less. We're operating between 7 and 10 days. So and then you look at something like Dune, and it takes 9 months. So it's like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, clearly there is a market for this kind of pace, and it is not the most absurd thing. I know that a lot of my filmmaker friends are like, I don't understand how you're able to do 12 and a half pages in a day. at the end of the day, it's like, this is, with any kind of creative project, giving yourself limitations is going to shape how you approach the work, right? And oftentimes I work pretty well with my back against the wall, and I like creative limitations. I remember in film school, I had this teacher, John Stathos, who I love, and we did a assignment where it was like, here are your creative limitations. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was something like, you have to say the word banana 14 times. It's got to be black and white, and it has to be a horror movie or something like that. And it's like, okay, cool. Those are my limitations. Here's where I have to now make a thing happen. So I see a faster production schedule kind of as the same thing. Okay, I have 7 days to do 96 pages. So this house actually has to be this house and that house and this house and that house. If I only look at this wall and I only look at that wall, I can make that a whole other location. Also, while I'm going to do this, these 14 characters, no. I need these 3 actors let's give them bigger roles, and this over here and this over here. And you kind of make this Tetris piece, given the limitations that are the constraints around you. And then you're able to make something that feels quick and digestible. I find what's exciting with the vertical space is we're seeing a lot of new storylines, a little bit bigger budgets, a little bit more time to make them. They're definitely, as the world is starting to wake up to what these things are, we are starting to increase in scope, which is a wonderful, lovely thing. I do think, though, that it's like, okay, if we're going to increase like what our footprint is as a production, we have to also increase the time that we're given to make it, as well as the compensation for the cast and the crew as they're making this thing happen. And also, you got to recognize like what an audience is looking to see in it. Like, are they here for the slaps and the drama, or do they want to try and see Game of Thrones vertically? And I think, market research will tell you it's going to kind of dictate one way or the other what they're more interested in seeing. And I'm just happy to make what they want me to make.
Yeah, that is a challenge. That is a challenge. But, do you find? Let me. What do you enjoy the most directing? Do you music videos, TV shows, movies, verticals, or you don't care?
God, that's I think I like the last option a little bit.
I thought you might. Why I added it.
It for a while it was like, it kind of depends on the story we're telling. And then I've done a lot of stories that I don't necessarily agree with, but I think it's, it's a job, and I can add a little bit of decency and dignity to what we're trying to do here. Music videos are so fun because they're just so creative and expressive, and like, it's the barrier for entry is pretty low. So you'll work with some up and coming artists who end up blowing up in their career, or you're just able to flex these like really creative muscles. But in doing so, the ROI and the margins are so razor thin on what you'll end up making financially with a music video that's a bit of a bummer after a while. I do though think that like I'm such a fan of being a part of a production and building teams and telling stories that like it could be a commercial, it could be a play, it could be a movie, it could be a vertical, it could be a music video. I'm just kind of happy making movies and being around a production.
Well, that answers that question. And going back to what we were talking about before, Michaela has another thing. She says, how hard or easy is it for you to be in a movie just as an actor and get instructions from the director?
Yeah. That's a really valid question. I think it's so apparent when somebody has an idea and a vision and like a control over the set. There are some directors that get what the job is, understand the assignment, has a vision, knows how to communicate it, and then it's like, great, this is that person's show. I think overall, as an actor, though, there's always going to be this you're relinquishing. Okay, this is somebody else's thing. Film and TV is a director's medium. Like you're a part of the picture. So it's complicated and challenging for me when I work with a little bit more green directors or green producers or an AD who just does not have like the touch to like be a little bit more, Jedi mind tricks and cool and chill. And there's not a lot of yell, scream, because I've seen how to do it right and I've seen how to do it wrong. And there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. But at the same time, I have my methods of the people that I like to work with. So as an actor, it can be a little bit, it's a lot of like biting your tongue of like, no, I wouldn't really have done it like that, but I'm not directing this one. I'm just acting this one. Or it's like, do you really need me? Are we sure? Okay. If you need me, I'm here. But if you don't really need me for this shot, because you're, 100 yards that way, and I can tell that you're not even facing me, then like, okay, hey, I'm here to be part of that person's story. It is though just a little complicated because like as a director, I am like, okay, you're constantly thinking of everything all at once, and you're not always thinking about individual specifics of how one person might be, their perspective on the set that you're building. And I'm at fault of it too, as like, especially like is starting out and even, probably still moving forward of like, I'm not always thinking about how that one day player is moving through the world when we have 14 pages to do this day. And today I got their line and that's great. I need to move on. So as an actor, it's like, you have to be able to turn your brain off and just say, at the very least, hit your mark, say your line, make a choice. And if it's the wrong choice, know that somebody's going to tell you it's the wrong choice, and then just move on with it.
Yeah. Well, I have one more question before I'm going to go to Marcia.
Okay.
We've had some other directors from other TV shows and things like that on, and a couple of them have said that they kind of have like a signature move or a signature thing that they like to put in to all of their productions that they do. Do you have anything like that? Or
I got a half a dozen things like that I really
okay. You got a half a dozen, so you mix it up.
Sure, of course.
Okay.
That's so funny. So especially in these verticals, I'll always call it a paper shower. And a paper shower can be with anything. Oftentimes it's money though on these verticals. And what the paper shower is, it's some jerk is throwing a wad of cash at the lead female, and it, it's supposed to make them feel small, and it's belittling and it's condescending. And so what I like to do as we're shooting it is we do it in slow motion. I want to do, I want to see the bills fall against her face. I want to see the bills fall against the guy's face who just threw it. And then I want to see the bills fall against the friend's reaction, and the bills fall against the hero as he comes through. So anytime you see like a slow motion version of things falling through frame, we just did one on this vertical that's not out yet. It's going, I won't say the name of it, but it's going to be on Drama Box. And without,
because it could change. We've learned how they change the name.
They change often, and I don't want to you gotta wait. But it is a paper shower, but instead of dollar bills, it's condoms, because it's it's a YA teen comedy, and you got the way like, whoa, in the condoms. It's like, oh my god, what are we? Yep, that's exactly. We need a paper shower with condoms, please and thank you.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Okay, Marcia, go right ahead.
That's hilarious. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
So I noticed on your website and even here you have Sir Danny Farber.
Yeah.
What's with the Sir?
Yeah, right. I'm manifesting. Obviously, I want to be knighted one day. That'd be sweet. No, it's so silly. In high school, it was sophomore math class. I had Mr. Layton to teach me algebra or geometry, whatever it was. And he was such a funny teacher, and he was so like charismatic. And I was a bit of a class clown, so I wanted to make him laugh. So on a test one time, I just signed the test, Sir Danny Farber. Just didn't think anything of it. And then I didn't stop signing all of my stuff. Papers, for other classes, Sir Danny Farber, STF, all these things. And it just kind of stuck. And then as you know, you build a career and you're trying to brand yourself and something like that. I just kind of kept it because it's a little like, it's funny and it's not. And it's like, it doesn't take myself too seriously, which I think is like huge. Cause like in the arts and in entertainment and just in life, you want to make sure that what you're doing like has value and holds weight. And like, you should, you know, I work hard, so people should take me seriously. And it's like, shut up. No, they don't. They don't do. Like, I'm just sir. No, I'm not. It doesn't matter. I have though been approached by international production companies that are always surprised that I'm not British. Because they're like, oh, we thought just with sir. No, okay, then that's just weird, dude. Where you're like, yeah, it's a little silly, yeah.
Well, that points to your humor, and I've looked at some of your shorts and things, and there is a lot of humor in those. There was one in particular I was looking at that was She Follows.
Oh my God! Well, that's a deep cut. Okay, sure, yeah. Let's talk She Follows.
For those of you who haven't watched it, it is available on YouTube, so you can see it. And that was a hugely interesting interchange about relationships.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that story? How that?
Yeah, Marcia, thanks so much for watching that. It's available on SirDannyFarber.com. I think it's under the directing side of things. I was working for IO Comedy Network at the time, which if you're in the comedy scene or improv scene or from Chicago, IO used to be Improv Olympic. It's akin to Second City. It's where improvisers go to train. And at 2015, 2016, 2017, we were trying to build the IO Comedy Network, which is, you know, now it makes so much sense to move all your comedy digitally. At the time, it was still like, wow, we don't fully understand. So we were making these sketches. And I was a producer at the IO Comedy Network. And it was fun to come in and build these ideas and whatever. And after moving up to a production manager, I started directing some stuff, and I would act in them occasionally, very par for the course for Danny Farber. And there was this sketch that, as I read it, I was like, well, this is cooler as a film. It's funny. It's a good idea. But it was an adaptation of the movie It Follows. And if you're unfamiliar with the movie It Follows, it's a great piece of American horror where, you know, it's kind of an allegory for like sexually transmitted diseases. It's kind of as I've kind of come to understand it. But in It Follows, as when you sleep with somebody, then this like demon type person will slowly just follow you until you sleep with the next person, and then the demon follows that person. And so with She Follows, we flipped it on its head, where it's the ex-girlfriend who is just constantly following our lead guy, dear actor who recently passed away, Sean Cooley, who's just so funny, who as Sean kind of moves through the movie, will have the girlfriend kind of around, and Vita Horwitz was just kind of like there, and it was creepy, and it's funny, and it's cerebral, and it follows this like idea that you can't ever shake an ex if they're just always kind of biting at your shit. And that's kind of what She Follows was. It's very much a parody of It Follows with like dumb crash sketch comedy humor that we shot forever ago at this point. Really deep cut.
Mm-hmm. And I won't tell people the end, but in the end, there's a little hook at the end, which I found interesting.
With a little Danny Farber cameo, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah. I make my cameo in that one too. That's funny.
So when and there was actually a quote in there that I actually wrote down: a human tire fire of a relationship. I like.
Yeah. I don't know if that was Shara Lastly or if that was Sean Cooley, but
it was her. Yeah,
it's Shara, and that's just Shara's she's such a funny improviser. That's what's great about working with like comedians and just people that are just excited to be around set and like have a deep understanding of like pacing and rhythm and timing. And it's like when you direct stuff like that, it's like, let's just let it run and see what the funniest thing that comes out of somebody's mouth is going to be. And we're going to use that take because it's just like, it makes us giggle in the room. And then hopefully it translates to making people giggle on screen.
Along in your style of directing, are there certain directors that you have picked up some things from or learned from, especially?
Yeah. I mean, it's impossible not to walk through this world without being compared to Seth Rogen 18 times a day. So, as thank God this man is like well respected and not canceled and like just seems to be a good guy and also like a funny collaborator and great director and writer. I think that when you're building your own style, it's hard to not take from people that you admire and that you respect. I think that's just kind of like rings true with a lot of like Nick Stoller films. He's like very big brash comedies and it's funny and it's goofy. And I like to kind of lean into that a little bit more. I'm a huge Jon Favreau guy, from just, hey, make a thing with your buddies and then fall into one of the greatest franchises known to earth. And like, just seeing as, he's able to work as an actor and as a director and put himself through that kind of camp. I think Rami Youssef is doing a lot of really cool stuff too on Hulu. And, it's taking this like perspective of like, I think we've greatly demystified what a director does in the past 15 years, maybe, as like things have moved digitally, where you're seeing a lot of actors turn directors that kind of make it like this threshold to entry is a little bit more obtainable, where it's like, okay, so everybody kind of gets a shot of, you get one or two. And if those do well, then you can keep a career doing it, which is exciting because there's so many things to learn. I feel like there's like 4 other directors that I'm thinking of that I can't place in this moment, but like anybody who's going to be innovative, Yorgos Lanthimos, who's just going to like tell a weird story in a cool way. I did a short called Thoughts and Prayers. And a lot of that was something I wrote, I directed, I starred in, and it just felt like the movie The Lobster by Yorgos Lanthimos. That is this like off kilter, like everything in reality is like 4 degrees skewed to the right. It's like it's basically real, but it's a little surreal in this like cerebral kind of sense that I think is a great way to pitch dark comedy as like, okay, this is an alternate universe, but it's so grounded in what feels authentic that like you can buy into the weird of it all. So yeah, those are just some people that I admire.
Mm-hmm. And nowadays, with so much social media and so many things available to us via, visual media, it's allows fans and people to kind of follow people a little bit more, because I was able to follow a little bit of your path toward producing Thoughts and Prayers.
Oh,
And it gives us a chance to get to know you better and get to feel even more for maybe a piece. I noticed I was watching one of your reels and it felt a little. Are you a fan of Kevin Smith at all?
Clerks?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, there was a scene, and I don't know what it was from, but it reminded me of Jason Mewes outside the staff.
$15, little man. Put that shit in my head. Yeah.
And I went, there you go.
That's fun. That's cute. Was it something that I was acting in? Was it?
Well, you said, were you acting in it?
Yeah, was it acting or something that I directed?
It was something I believe that you.
I think I know. It's 3 burnouts outside of a drugstore.
Yes.
Yes. And that was exactly what we were going for. Marsha, really deep cut. Really, really deep cut. So that was just a music video for Warner. The artist was Ezekiel, and then there was this duo called Who Killed XIX. And Ezekiel's from the UK. Who Killed XIX is LA boys. And it was like this big, like, it's half anime, it's half live action. I directed the live action part of it. These great animators at this company called Great Work did the animation like style. It's so cool. It's so wild. It's so not what I'm used to. And I was happy to like step into this new arena. And at the end of it, I thought it'd be really funny to do like an end credit sequence where the three of them are like smoking a joint, drinking a 40, and talking about the anime video that we just saw basically as the video transitions into animation. And I was like, how funny would it be if you guys are just like talking about like what guns your character is using? And we kind of come to realize that like, oh, none of that was real. That was all just you guys bullshitting, as you do, you know, as you're just outside and you're just like with your buddies and you're loitering and you're like, nah, I wouldn't do that. I would use a big bazooka, and I go pop, 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 pop. Like, so it is very like Jay and Silent Bobby. And,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a super
Very
neat
cool.
cut. Hell yeah, dude. Thanks for watching.
Michael's shaking his head.
That's great.
You just like doing that, Marsha. I know.
That's a
You
good.
gotta hang with us.
That's good. That's really flattering. I really appreciate you watching it.
Yeah. I just want to let everybody know we're, going to wrap up pretty soon. So if you're in the chat room and you want to throw a question out to Danny, please do it now so you don't get we are gone and then your question comes up, and that's
Well,
no
I'd
fun.
like to ask you a question, Danny.
Please.
A lot of times people see the word producer and
Yeah.
it's confusing.
Yeah,
So-
sure is. Yeah.
So can you tell us, what does a producer actually, what is their role? What do they do?
Producers make the project. Producer, it's so on 1,000 different like ways of looking at it, but it's like most people think producers just the people with the money, and oftentimes producers help find the money. Sometimes producers put up the money, but on this like indie side of things, producers are the ones that are like hiring the crew and finding so the crew says what gear they want, and then the producers have to talk to the rental companies and says, okay, we need this gear for these dates. And then the director says, I want these locations. And then the producers goes through and we set up location scouts. And the director's like, not that spot. Yes, that spot. So the producers got to get a location agreement with the locations. Producers got to make sure that everybody is on payroll and like gets paid on time, and make sure that the work that we're doing is compensated. If we go overtime, we bill the producer, because the producer is the one that usually handles the money side as well as the contracts. And it says in my contract, hey, at 10 hours I go overtime, or 12 hours I go overtime. So then you don't take it up with anybody but the producer, really. It's also like, what are we doing for lunch? What are we doing for breakfast the next day? Where are our meals coming from? Oh, we're hitting OT so that we have a second meal. What are we doing for a second meal? Producers are constantly putting out fires. And the saddest part about the industry is they are some of the hardest working teams, and it's without producers we wouldn't have these projects. And they get sometimes the least amount of recognition, unless you're at the Oscars. And then when you see the Best Picture winners, you're like, who are all these people? Those are the producers. They win Best Picture because they produce the Best Picture. And it's about putting that right team together. The best thing a producer, I used to produce a bunch back in Chicago, and the thing that I would love the most out of producing was putting a team together. This DP is really strong. This director is really green. They'd work really well together. Or this artist is non-binary and a person of color, and here's a queer black DOP, and let's put them together because I bet they jive really, really well. Or here's a script that I really want to champion. I'm not the right person to tell this story, but here's a director that should tell this story. Let me put them together, and then let me help build that from the ground up. And in doing so, you're shaping creatively how a project feels. By attaching a director to a project, absolutely changes how everything about the project. But the person that hires the director is the producer. Rarely is it the other way around. Sometimes I've been fortunate enough as a director to work with some of these bigger, especially in verticals, like here are some apps, and they're like, what producers do you like working with? And I'm like, cool, I can get some people a job that have gotten me jobs over the past. But oftentimes it's like, I get hired by a production company, I get hired by a producer, and then I'm like, great. I sometimes too, like I'll when I'll bring a production company to a job, I'll be like, I'm hiring my boss to this thing. And that is something that never, I'll always say, and sometimes I'll say it a little sassy, and sometimes I won't at all, and I'll be absolutely sincere, but it's like, it's their show. And it's like, what do you want me to do another take of that? Okay. You realize that this might cost us a little bit of time in the day? Okay, great. It's your show. You want to see it again? I'm happy to give that note. I'm happy to do this thing, happy to do whatever we need to do, because it can't, I know everybody says that a director is like, it's a dictatorship and it's not a meritocracy. And so it is a collaboration though. It is all of these people that care so deeply about what we're doing, and they're up till 2 a.m. and up at 5, and all of these, they're putting more than just the sweat equity into it. They're getting ulcers about it. They're losing sleep and missing weddings and funeral. It's like your producers are the ones that like, they put it all together. And I think that's why people are like, well, what does a producer do? It's such a big job. And often it's broken up into different associate producers and production managers and coordinators and all these things. But it's like the production side of things. Without it, you don't have a movie.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you to my producers. Every single one of them over the last, there's like 2 producers that can go fuck themselves. But like over 12 years, that's pretty good. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
So, Danny, is there anything that we haven't brought up that you wanted to get out there in the world today, or did we do fairly good?
I think this is great. Everybody should go vote, just in general. Sign up to go vote. Be a part of our democracy, because it's something between the figures. Vote.org. If you're unfamiliar, you might have a local election this year. You might not. I don't know. But I think that's kind of more important than any of the silly entertainment stuff that we're talking about, is like finding ways to support local communities, get involved with the civic duty of your responsibility as a person in this world. If you don't live in America, you should still probably participate in elections any way that you can. But outside of that stuff, no, I don't know. I have a vertical coming out. We just shot in Canada. It's going to be on Kalos TV and mini shorts as well. Right now it's called Love Beyond Sight, starring the beautiful Alexa Reddy, who plays blind in that movie. And I just watched the second cut of it, and it is so cool to see. She really like trusted me to be like, no, this looks good. Like, you're playing. We had to find out what it meant to be a non-sighted person, and what does that do to the shifting eyes. And I kept telling her, bring your eye line up, bring your eye line up. It's going to play. If you're looking out, it looks like you're looking at somebody, just up and out, up and out. And she does wonderful in that. And the whole Canadian cast and crew was so fun in that. Cheer Up Baby's coming out soon on Drama Box. I'm starting one on Friday for Good Shorts. Right now it's called She Strikes When the Smoke Clears. I know it sounds like a film noir, and I was really excited. I was like, is this going to be... No? Okay. All right. Fair enough. It's just got a cool title. No worries. So
hey, that's another way for verticals to go into the noir.
The noir side of it. I don't know that people, who knows? We'll see kind of what as we do it. So that's the vertical side of things. On the, acting side, music video side, it's things kind of pop up randomly out of nowhere. So, keep watching this space, but really call a loved one, kiss a stranger consensually, vote in the local elections, seize the day, eat a piece of fruit.
Eat a piece of fruit. Love it.
That's it. I think that's all I got.
Okay. So everyone out there in cyberspace, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us live. If you're watching us later, great. Just come and look at all the people that we've had on Verticals. We've had over 20. So we've had over 20 actors, and this is our first director for Verticals. So we're very happy we got you.
Can I nominate a couple directors that I think should come on the show?
Absolutely. Yeah. And send them to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I've got a few that I've been looking at, but sometimes, they don't know who I am and they just ignore, and I understand that.
Michael, Marcia, thank you guys so much for your time, for letting me on the show, for doing what you guys are doing. I think it's a great way to get, a little bit more exposure out here for the work that we're doing. So we, in the vertical space, really appreciate it. And then just also as like artists and humans, like this show is fantastic. And thank you guys for watching and giving me a platform.
Well, we appreciate you coming. So
We do.
Yeah. On behalf of everyone at NDB Media and Talented Universe, take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, Sir Danny.
Bye.